you're not going to get much national money if you're a Democrat running in Mississippi. And so they are very susceptible to Democratic consultants coming in. That's why you see the exact same campaign run over and over again.
Have you looked much at the Mississippi's gubernatorial race?
You know, I haven't. The only thing that really I've seen and I haven't really had a time to really look into it were two things. One, that there really appears to be, a drive for Black Americans to come out and vote and vote for the Democrat, which is, not super surprising, but we've had polling lately that suggests that may be softening, and we didn't really see that. We haven't seen the numbers that much from Mississippi yet. But also, I heard that they had this sort of the classic, we ran out of ballots, just coincidentally, only in voting districts that are predominantly African American. That is the perennial favorite, and the problem, of course, we have in this country is that the Supreme Court has all but essentially kneecapped the Voting Rights Act, both the preclearance and the sort of like ability for the Justice Department to come into certain situations. There's still something there. And I hope maybe if I haven't dug into it too much, but if those reports are at least remotely accurate, that we see a DOJ that's going to go in and look at that, because it will be copied in other districts around the country if the DOJ doesn't.
And it is the shenanigans in Hinds County was really, really wild. I don't think that it made the difference because it was surprisingly, it was closer than some of the other races. Well, it's closer than when I checked. When I checked on Tuesday, it looks like the end result was 51.5% for Tate Reeves and 47.1% for Brandon Presley, which is right almost exactly at what the last Democrat who ran for Mississippi governor was, who did not get nearly the amount of attention. I don't think that the attention maybe penetrated outside of the South, but Brandon Presley's campaign really got a lot of Southern Democrats excited. And looking at it, I could not, for the life of me, understand why. Other than his, he's Elvis Presley's second cousin. He's got the name. That's cool. He's got a lot of money behind him, seemed like. It was the most expensive gubernatorial race in Mississippi's history. But he ran exactly the same campaign that so many white Democrats have run in the South over the past several decades. He ran as a tax-cutting, anti-abortion, pro-gun Democrat in Mississippi in 2023 after Dobbs. He did not even say that he would oppose Mississippi's complete abortion ban. And wow. He had a commercial. I think it was his first commercial. It may not have been his first one, but he had a commercial where the whole thing, and he paid money to have this on media markets across the state, was him chainsawing a car in half to illustrate his commitment to cut the car tag tax.
I mean, Andy Beshear, I think, gives at least some template, right, for how you run in a red state in this era. And abortion rights is just huge. Now, I don't know if that's a winning message in Mississippi, but I think like what you can see is that the way that they're running has a ceiling on it. And there's, extreme polarization around the country. And how do you, if you're looking for an issue that hits people sort of like in their pocketbook, the fact of the matter is is that abortion rights for a, a huge percentage of the women who and people can have a kid pursue them is a function of economic realities and self-determination for how they want to live their lives. I mean, there's nothing more pocketbook than, am I going to be able to have the right to time when I give birth? And to leave that on the table is just, it seems to me to be political malpractice. And, I think we're going to see over the course of the next year that if anybody, if there are any surprises that start to develop in red states, it's going to be a function of the fight to have an abortion right.
I agree. And it's really baffling to me to see these kinds of campaigns, because that's the exact same kind of campaign that Walt Maddox ran in Alabama in 2018. And he lost by, now at least for in Brandon Presley's case, I think he did better than the other Democrats who were running, but Walt Maddox did not do any better than any other Democrat running in Alabama. But that campaign, I think you can make an argument for it in Alabama because the black population in Alabama is only like 27% of the population, and so you have to get you really actually do have to get a lot of conservatives to vote for you if you're going to be a Democrat winning statewide in Alabama. But in Mississippi, it's something like 40% black, 40%, and that is really, really close, or that's really close to 50%. So you have to get very, very few, even white people, not to mention white conservatives. You just have to get very few white people at all to vote for you. And so it seems like Mississippi is really the perfect place to run an energizing Jesse Jackson campaign. And there's just zero interest in doing it. And it could.
Well, I mean, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, I mean, the dilemma is this, right? Is that you're not going to get much national money if you're a Democrat running in Mississippi for governor, because Democrats haven't been able to sort of break through in that situation. And so this is what happens. They look for somebody who has deep pockets themselves or has some type of name recognition. And that becomes the sort of like favorite candidate. And that person probably doesn't have much of a record of running in politics generally. They are very susceptible to Democratic consultants coming in, and if they're looking for national money or support, they'll end up being pushed certain set of Democratic consultants, and that's why you see the exact same campaign run over and over again, because these consultants come in, they have one set of ideas, they not coincidentally, they end up being the ones that actually put as much money in their pocket as possible. Like, let's do more television buys and this and that, because they skim more money off of, they get it's like almost like a general contractor. They get a cut of whatever those services are for the media buys, as opposed to we're going to have a great ground game. Right. And they, and it's tougher to get a great ground game if you're not pursuing the issues that are really relevant to your voters in the same way. And so they don't go for the ground game. They go for the media market buys. That's going to put more money in their pocket. And it's rinse and repeat over and over again. And, I think, I've talked about this many times before, but on Air America, which was the radio network I was in, I just watched this cycle happen. It just so happened that we had 6 owners in 5 years, or 6 CEOs in 5 years and 5 owners or something like that. And you could just see this. They'd come in and would immediately defer to consultants. The consultants would keep all the money within their own sort of a circle of people, because they're like, I'm not going to be here in 6 months. So if I've got a contract to give to somebody, I'm going to give it to somebody who's going to get me my next gig. There, this is a problem, and this is why, like in many respects, I think it's very difficult to break through unless there really is a people powered movement that can sort of organically grow. And I don't know if you can do that with the governor's race as your first race. In somewhat respects, you may need to be, like a Charles Booker in Kentucky, where you're in another position where you might be able to build that base. And so I think that there's no monolithic sort of like Democratic Party that is making these decisions, as much as there are a bunch of different people who have maybe misaligned incentives or specific incentives for them, and that's what they pursue.
Right.
Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
Right, and the lack of long-term thinking is really frustrating to me, and kind of like you said. But this, Brandon Presley raised $12 million. He spent $11 million, and as far as I can tell, there is zero continuing infrastructure from this campaign.
Right.
And how do you not do that in a place like Mississippi, like this forward thinking? You have to have known that the odds are against you. And so you would think that you would set yourself up to, even if you lose, that there's going to be something going forward after this. And I spoke to people that were not on that campaign, but were in the AFL-CIO, who were basically running the labor part of the campaign. And, I told him, I was like, look, we can get on the radio statewide if you pay the, you pay the time for us. And then we'll be able to, not only will you have like that commercial type of thing during the breaks, but you'll have this sustaining like left of center presence on the radio and there's just like not any interest in it. And it's, or doing anything similar. It doesn't have to be me, right? I'm not like special. Other people can do the same thing. It's just incredibly frustrating. But Adam is actually from Mississippi. You've lived in Alabama for a long time now, Adam. I wonder what if you have any more sophisticated analysis of Mississippi politics maybe than I do about the prospects of a Jesse Jackson type campaign, or a campaign that is more like that.
Well, I would definitely love to see it, and I do think that Mississippi, for demographic reasons, has that potential because, like you said, there's only that many white folks you would have to recruit to such a campaign. But there's something, I think Sam really touched on the fact that there are a lot of grifters that surround these activities, these campaigns. There are a lot of folks who, lack vision, lack leadership. And, something else that he mentioned in terms of it's tough to get investment in the South, right? Because it's not a winner. And that's where folks want to put their money. And just like they go after likely voters, right? Well, in Alabama in 2022, over 61% of Alabamians did not vote. They didn't have much to vote for, frankly, which is another conversation. But, that is our recipe, is to get mass engagement from working class people. Everyday common people, unite them around a common agenda as working people. I mean, that's where the numbers are. The working class is the majority. It's the most diverse class, so that makes it difficult to unite as a majority. But, I do think that a populist, working class oriented campaign in a place like Mississippi, rooted in the black community, that maximizes black voter turnout, could certainly, why not try it?
Right.
Why not try it? We've been trying this other stuff.
Yeah, we've been trying the white, pro-life, pro-gun, tax-cutting Democrat for literally decades, and it's not working. Let's at least try something different. Yeah,
it's going to require some vision from like sort of the national Democrats to just take the the chance and support a more grassroots oriented campaign. But the problem is for them is that becomes a challenge for them. This is sort of like the iron law of institutions, where you would rather maintain your power within an institution that had no power than sacrifice your own power for the power of the institution. But I will say this, that I think is going to be interesting in the coming years, is to see if Biden's support of the UAW shows up in the polls, the exit polling essentially, in states like, even like in Ohio, but like in Michigan and around the other countries, maybe in Pittsburgh, or Pennsylvania, a couple other states, that because hopefully that starts sort of a virtuous circle of Democrats coming back to realize more broadly, because I think Biden on some level has a notion of that their electoral prospects are enhanced by enhancing union power. And we'll see. It'll be interesting. Sean Fain, I'm really interested to see, what he does in the interim between these contracts, right? Because I don't get the sense that, I get the sense we're going to hear from him more than we have on other union leaders when there's no contract dispute.
I think so, and I'm really excited to see that. And I don't know if you saw this, but Joe Biden spoke at Belvedere Assembly Plant to a bunch of UAW members 2 days ago, I think it was. And there was some amount of speculation that Sean Fain was going to endorse him there, and he didn't. And I thought that was fantastic. I thought it was, just because I think there had to have been some maybe expectation or hope that, okay, this is the second UAW rally that I'm going to. Hopefully I'll get an endorsement. And he still didn't. The UAW is really making him work for it. And
Good.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's also possible, it's hard to, gauge these things. It may be something they feel like the timing has to happen later. Maybe it's after the contracts are ratified. I mean, you don't know, but right. I like the fact that for, relative to any issues I may have Biden, I think we said this, when Biden went to the picket lines, just the idea that the president of the United States is providing a platform for the president of the UAW to address the country on cable television for a couple of minutes. Right. That he's bringing the press corps to Belvedere, when Sean Fain is also speaking from Belvedere, and that, that amplifies Sean Fain's message. And you can see Fain sort of, his message is more expansive than just what's happening with these workers at this plant or these workers with this management. It's broader. He's talking about a broader dynamics in our society, and I think that's just really helpful.
Yes, I think so, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. DJ Lewis and Drew Morgan are a couple of comedians that we're going to be talking to tomorrow, and Drew told me that DJ has a crush on Sean Fain, and so he's going to be. I'm sure that he will be a continuous topic of conversation, especially now that he has a beard. So that was a really good PR move. I don't know who got to him and convinced him to do that, but that was a win, I think.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting to have a union leader that is that is popular. I mean, I feel like maybe the last one that we saw in this way was Karen Lewis, who was the head of the Chicago Teachers Union. She really became a national figure. And unfortunately, she passed away of, I think it was brain cancer. Ultimately had to step down. But she was also very galvanizing. I mean, we have, presidents of the national teachers unions, but they're in the public eye, but they're not, they don't feel like leaders outside of their unions, or, they're certainly not inspiring people outside of their unions. Sarah Nelson, maybe another one, particularly what kind of role the flight attendants union played in the last government shutdown. And it's going to be interesting to see if we see that again with this government shutdown. If you'll recall, like, as soon as the flight attendants said, we're a little nervous of flying with the FCC, the FAA under this type of pressure, things got resolved very quickly. So,
Right.
And that enhanced the power of the union.
Yep. Yeah, and we are very quickly coming up on that news cycle again that we just went through 40 days ago, with nothing seeming to have changed, but nevertheless. You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.